All right, rabbis, here we have the Dvar Malchut. We're continuing learning what we started yesterday. And it is a speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave. And a lot of people are also writing in, why do I think the Lubavitcher Rebbe is the Moshiach and he's the Moshiach? Well, first of all, somebody has to be Moshiach, number one. And number two, there's Maimonides. Maimonides has clearly the laws of Moshiach and said anyone who's not waiting for Moshiach, he's denying the whole Torah. That's what the Maimonides says. Now, Maimonides was a very serious, a very accepted, how do you say, mainstream Judaism. There's no mainstream more Judaism than Maimonides. Maimonides was Judaism. That was not just mainstream. That was Judaism. There is no other Judaism except for the Judaism that the Maimonides espoused. That's Judaism, right? There are people maybe that disagree with certain laws of this, and they bring certain sources and reasons why. Maimonides wanted that. That Judaism encourages very much discussion and arguments and etc. Good, but what Maimonides says about Mashiach, nobody disagrees with. Every great Talmudic scholar, at least in the degree of Moses. I mean, anybody can stand up and say anything they want to nowadays. No one disagrees with Maimonides, and Maimonides says that anyone who does not believe in Mashiach and wait for his arrival is denying the whole Torah. And then he has criteria of what Mashiach is supposed to do. He's supposed to try to bring all the Jews back to Judaism and strengthen Torah and strengthen mitzvahs. And anyone who does that, you can suppose that he's the Mashiach. You can suppose that he's the Mashiach. It's Chezkas Mashiach. You can suppose that person is the Mashiach. And there's the details. He has to know the whole Torah, and he has to teach the whole Torah, and he has to be himself, an observant person, and he has to be from the tribe of King David. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe was from the tribe of King David. He was a direct descendant of the Maharal of Prague. Maharal of Prague had the book of whatever it is, relatives or something. He was directly from King David. So, okay, you want to believe somebody else is Mashiach, no problem. But don't let that say that there's nobody is Mashiach. So so the Rebbe is trying to inspire us to think about God. And he's trying to inspire us to think about God in practical ways, to lift us up a little bit above our little egotistical way of looking at the world. So the Rebbe says, okay, ready? You listen. It says that there's one opinion that there's 7 books of the Torah. Is this the right one? 1 second, 1 minute, 1 minute. 1 minute, is this the right? Just a second. 1 minute. No, this is not the right, huh? Oh, yes, it is. Okay, good. Okay, good. Yes, okay. So the Rebbe said that this week's Torah portion, which is called Ba'alotcha, which means to make the flames go up in the candelabra, that there are 7 stems of the candelabra, and some people say that corresponds to the 7 books of Moses. Where did you get 7 books of Moses? So it says there's one opinion that says that you can divide the Torah, same Torah, but you can, instead of dividing it up into 5 books, you divide it into 7 books. How do you divide it up into 7 books? So there are 2 sentences right in the middle of this week's Torah portion that some people say that those 2 sentences are a book of the Torah. That's one book of the Torah. And that divides the book of Numbers into 3 books. From the beginning of the book of Numbers until the 2 sentences, and then from the 2 sentences until the end of the book of Numbers, so it ends up 3 books. There's 7 books. This is why? What's the point? What do we care if there's 7 or there's 3 or there's 14? What do we care? So the Rebbe says, I'll explain it. So first of all, if you do divide up the Torah into 7 books, so this sort of will go against the general principle that we always try to start a book or a chapter of the Torah, and also to end the book or a chapter of the Torah with something good. And if we divide it into 7, that these 2 sentences themselves are a sentence or a book of the Torah, then after these two sentences, then there starts another book, right? They'll start, I guess you'll call it the sixth book of the Torah, and that starts off with something bad, that the Jewish people were complaining. The people were complaining, and Rashi explains they were complaining basically about nothing. They were just complaining, bad thing. And then that would finish this book, and then there's other bad things that happen. And then would come, like for instance, the spies refusing to go into Israel, Korach fighting against. So it ends up that the sixth book of the Torah will be almost purely bad things, and it'll begin on something bad. So that's not good. Okay. So the Rebbe says, okay, to understand this, let's understand what exactly was lighting up the menorah in the temple. Rashi comes to explain the simple meaning of the Torah. What does it mean? That Aaron would light the lights. He would light each flame until it went up on its own. Went up on its own. Okay. That's what it means that the flame went up on its own. That's also in the service of God. The lamps are the Jewish people, and each one has a potential fire waiting inside, and it has to be lit, and it has to be lit with this fire of love for God until it goes up on its own. It goes up on its own. We don't have to always have inspiration from outside, even when we can inspire others. And also, where do we get the original spark? That has to come from our teachers, from our rabbis. That's what it means that the Jewish people, they receive from Aaron a Cohen. He is the one that lights the lights. So every generation there has to be a Rebbe Lubavitcher, and then there's also other rabbis, and then there's your parents, and etc. And they influence you to have this love of God. You're given powers from Aaron. He's the one that lights these lights, and also from your parents or from your teachers and the people that are around you. Like it says, people should help one another, encourage one another. And nevertheless, the true service of God is not when you're being inspired by others, but when you can inspire yourself. It's a flame that goes up on its own. And this is when you feel yourself that I'm being created by God, and God is infinitely good, and the Torah is infinitely true, and God put me in this world in order to fix up the world, then you're, how do they call it? Self-motivated. Self-motivated. You really believe in what you're doing. You believe in God, you believe in Judaism, you believe in the world, and you believe that I'm here in order to use Judaism to bring God to fix up the world. That's what it means, ner mitzvah v'torah or, that the true inspiration and excitement of a Jew is when it is expressed through Torah and the commandments. And through the Torah and the commandments, then this will permeate the whole world until this shines on its own. The world itself will shine on its own, so that you won't have to have an additional influence all the time to be inspired by somebody else. It'll raise up on its own. There's a very interesting, there's a mimer, a Hasidic discourse of the Rebbe, where he explains this law of the Hanukkah lights. So there's a law in the Hanukkah lights that you put the lights outside. According to the Arizal, you put it inside. A lot of people in Chabad also, most people, they put it inside. But there's a lot of Jews that really good Jews, they put it outside, especially in Jerusalem. You go and you see, and it's very beautiful, Hanukkah. In any case, but there is definitely a commandment to put the Hanukkah lights outside. So the Rebbe says why? Because Hanukkah is light, just like the menorah here. And the job of the Jews is to illuminate the outside, and that the lights of Hanukkah, they're infinite, and it illuminates the world with an infinite light. So the Rebbe says, one second, if the lights of Hanukkah are infinite and nothing can stop them, so why do you have to put them in the street? Even if you put it in your house, they'll also illuminate the outside. So he said, but so therefore we can come to the conclusion that that's not the point. The lights of Hanukkah are designed so that the outside world itself, in other words, not in the synagogue and not only in the synagogue and not only in the holy temple, that the world itself should advertise that it's being created by God, which is the fact. And everything then becomes very meaningful and happy. The world is a happy place, right? And people won't be uptight and depressed and aggressive and they say frustrated and all these things, anxious. So the world itself should have that's the whole idea of Aaron. Aaron says that he has to light the lights until the lights illuminate on their own. Even more the language of Rashi. Rashi says shelahevet olam me'aleh, that it's a flame that goes up on its own. So again, the reason the flame goes up on its own is because, in fact, God really is creating us. And in fact, God really is enlivening us. And in fact, God is infinitely close to us. And he's encouraging us and he's empowering us. And God cares about us, each and every person. That's the fact. And when we realize that, then everyone realizes that his inspiration doesn't depend on the outside. It doesn't depend on someone always pushing him. He gets the point. She'll have it. Lifnei shaner nidlekas yeshno ner. Okay, before the lamp is lit, so there is a lamp, there's a vessel, there's oil, there's a wick, but it doesn't shine. The service of a Jew is that he's got everything. God gave him everything. He has to light it. But often shenasa shall have us until in a way that it makes a flame that goes up. Shezohar will meir, that it illuminates and it shines not just himself, but his whole area where he is. Not just a small candle, but a big flame. Ola, and it goes up. Avodas Odair, the service of a Jew is to make the world shine, like a flame of mitzvah, near mitzvah v'torah or. It says that the lamp is the commandments and the Torah is the light. It has to be in a way that he doesn't remain in his place. Ella ha'arato imatoch tenua matmeret shel alicha. It's always moving. So let's just take a step one here, 1 second. How it's very possible to really make a big mistake over here. I have a good friend. I go, this already 25 years, maybe more. We go to put the tefillin on people together. He goes a lot to the army base, the secret army bases he goes to, and he puts the tefillin on them. Anyway, so he showed me a video. He was just, it was unusual to see him like this. He was just so like startled, like tremendously, I don't know how to say it, disappointed. They interviewed some fellow in Jerusalem. And there's a big thing now that the government, all of a sudden, they want to induct the religious people, which I think is just a political move. They don't need these religious people in the army. Anyway, so they want to, and the religious people are against the Medina. They're against the country. They're against Zionism. Which they have their point, but you'll see what my point is. Anyway, so they asked this person, you don't want to go in the army? He says, no, I won't. The country is bad, and the Zionism is idolatry, and it's all this. And he said, would you rather be in a country where the under the government of Hamas or the Zionists? And he said, I'd rather be under Hamas. So my friend said, how can a Jew say that? How can any normal person say a thing like that? The guy went out of his mind. So here we see that, yes, he's devoted to God, and he's devoted to the Torah, he's devoted to the commandments, he's devoted to the religion, but he's out of his mind. He became a monster. The person became a monster, right? It means that he's stuck in one place, and anything that sort of disturbs him, you're disturbing my place. He can't hear any other opinion except for his own. He can't bear any other opinion except for his own. And he has no reason particularly why to be so adamant, except he's stuck in his one. Okay, I'm not trying to knock these people because they certainly do have a point. They certainly do have a point, right? That the whole Zionistic idea that the Jew is like a regular person is totally destructive. But on the other hand, after all, they're Jews. They're Jews. All these people, they're all Jews. And every Jew is beloved by God. Even these, stinkers that are in the Haaretz and the big leftists, and they're siding with the Hamas, but they're Jews. What are you going to do? And so therefore, it means you have to understand how to deal with situations. You can't just throw it in people's faces all the time. I don't know. Maybe you can. Maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe that's the way people go home. These newspapers say, "Man, wow, maybe the guy is right." Maybe. What's this? What's going on over here? Why does this happen to me? Here we go. Okay. So the Rebbe is saying that's what it means. It has to be moving all the time. It has to be moving all the time. In other words, each and every different situation, you have to try to understand, at least to try. And you make mistakes; it's not the end of the world. But you have to try at least to elevate the situation according to the situation. You can't go and give a big speech in Hebrew to a crowd that doesn't understand Hebrew, but you have to at least deal with them. And so that's what it means. But the goal is to make everyone realize that they're being created by God and that God is infinitely good, and that people have to change on their own. That's the thing. That's what it means, that the flame has to go up on its own. It has to be in a way that you yourself do not stay in one place. You're like a flame that goes up. Ma'alim v'kodesh, nosef al kach, sheyeshno etzel deris bayim, mala shel halicha b'chlal. You have to be moving all the time. You have to be pleasant. Very important to be pleasant, but you have to be firm. You have to be firm. You can't get angry at people. You have to be pleasant with, but you have to be firm. It says, "Manerach meshiv chema." A lot of times, if you reply to someone in a calm way, you have much more of a chance of convincing the person than not. A lot of times you can't, but the angry, yelling at the person. I'll tell you a story. I don't know if this is a good story, but I'll tell you the story. I went to Crown Heights. This was before Yom Kippur. Maybe it was 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even more. Anyway, so religious Jews, they have the thing called kaporos, and they take chickens and then they slaughter the chicken. So there came these people from Peta, and they were screaming and cursing all of these people that were doing, "You're killing the chickens, you're killing the chicken." So I tried to talk to a couple of them, and they were cursing me out and calling me these dirty names in English. In Hebrew, there aren't names like this. They have to borrow. You're a MF, and you're a this, and your mother is this and this. So to one of them, I realized, listen, yelling back at them doesn't go. Of course, there were some Hasidim that yelled back at them, which that's exactly what they want. So to one of them, I said, listen, can I just talk for a minute? Give me one moment, a minute, just listen for 1 minute. That she was willing to listen for 1 minute was also a bit. I said, look at your watch, 1 minute, maybe even half a minute. I said, and chickens don't grow naturally. If no one raised chickens, there would be no more chickens. If so, if you forbid slaughtering chickens, no one's going to grow chickens, and there won't be any more chickens. Billions of chickens will not be alive. Do you think that these chickens would rather not be alive? Did you ask them? And they had nothing to say. They left. Okay, so at least they calmed the guy down. Another one, she started yelling at me, and she was really screaming. So I said to her, "Do you know me?" She said, "You are this and you are that. You are a murderer. You are this, and all the Jews are like this." I said, "Excuse me, do you know me?" And she said, no. So there was a guy with her. He was also yelling at me, but he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Do you know me? You have any idea who I am? I mean, you're calling me all these names." Do you know me that you're calling me these names? Maybe you're right. It could be you're right what you're saying, but you have to know me a little bit. Why are you just saying? So I said, well, I said, no, the fact you don't know me. So if you don't know me, you're calling somebody these names. You really believe. So it must be the only one that you do know is yourself. So you must be calling yourself these names because you don't know who I am. I mean, you didn't see me kill one chicken. So they left. The point is that things have to be done in a way that's calm and pleasant, but firm. It has to be firm. And you yourself have to be convinced. That's the whole idea. You yourself have to be convinced that I am really being created by God, and God is really good, and the Torah is really true. And once you really feel this yourself, then you can sort of adapt to the situation, but it has to be ola, it has to go up. There can be going, shu ba'orech v'rochev, then is moving. Moving means high and low and wide to one side or the other. It doesn't mean that you should, God forbid, relinquish any of your principles. Not the relinquish any principles. I remember how the Rebbe screamed. The Rebbe was so angry that the minister of religion, he kissed the Pope's ring. The Pope came to Israel, and the Pope is pure idolatry, and his goal is to destroy Judaism. Not only is it idolatry, even if his goal was to help Judaism, but it's pure idolatry. You can't worship. And he kissed the ring. The Rebbe went, you're the representative of religion, of the Jewish religion, and you kissed the ring of the Pope. Good, listen, I'm doing it only to be friendly, and I'm doing it to get benefits, and it could be release prisoners, and all. There's all these things. But in the end, you worshipped idolatry. You bowed down to an idol. And you didn't really mean it, and you didn't really care, but it's forbidden to do. And that's what it means. You can't give up your principles, but you have to be nice. You have to be pleasant. Shahu ola al shetach. You have to show that you're a human being. And shabo haya ad az, that you were where you were. You're moving from where you were. And then it has to be a service that goes to a higher level. That you serve God in a higher, more mature way, and a more, how do you say, a more enthusiastic way. Shalahavas olah me'allah. That's what it means, that the flame, first of all, it has to be a flame, and it has to go up all the time, and it has to go up on its own. Zen, said, becomes part of your nature, and becomes part of your nature that shines in you. Shines in you. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to do bad things anymore, and that you're not going to make mistakes. It's sometimes exactly the opposite. Now you're more aware of your mistakes than before. And they say a saying, it's not maybe not a nice saying, but I said a lot of not nice things in this class. But there's a saying by the Hasidic Chabad that all Hasidic Chabad are going to go to hell. All Hasidic Chabad are going to go to hell. What type of a thing is that? Who wants to be a Hasidic Chabad? Says, what's the reason? The reason is because everyone else in the world, and they didn't know they were doing anything wrong, or their rabbis told them whatever, and they were fooled or they were tricked, and so they have excuses. But we have no excuses. We have the Rebbe. The Rebbe was 100% unwavering, unwavering truth, and so we know what we're supposed to do. We know what's demanded of us, right? To have love of God, to have fear of God, to love of every Jew. And did we do it? We have to be learning the Torah all the time. Did we do it? No. So we have no excuses. So it says therefore every Chabad Chassid is going to go to hell. It says, but it's better our hell than their heaven. Why? Because at least you're going to hell for the truth. At least for the truth. You knew what was true. You tried. Okay, no excuses, right? Not making excuses. If you can make excuses, God say, okay, I'll let you into heaven. That's it. You've got excuses. I got no excuses. I should have done. I didn't do. What am I going to do? I knew what I was supposed to do. The Rebbe expected a lot from me, and I did. Maybe 1%, 5%. But nevertheless, you're moving up. You're moving with the truth. That's the point. And that's what life really is about. That's what really life is about. Life is not about making excuses. So all the people that did sins, but they have good excuses, so they'll go to heaven. But they have good excuses. They didn't know. And us, that we didn't know. So, but our hell is better than their heaven. This is, what does it mean? Because we were trying. We tried to move up. We tried to fix ourselves. We tried. Therefore, there has to be all of the conditions, tanaim, in order that the flame should be a proper vessel and proper wicks and proper oil so that the light should go up on its own. They said by means of this, that you have the wick and the oil, and it's all prepared. What do you mean it's all prepared? It's all, I say, in harmony with the way it's supposed to be. It's combustible and it's this. Look, look, the kabel to receive the light, right? It goes, it's buttle, we want to call it buttle. It's in harmony with the laws of combustion, right? That the light, the same thing, we have to be in harmony with to be able to receive the light of God, which means desire. Oh, we want to become closer to God. We learn the Torah, we do the commandments, a little bit, at least something. Kamavur, like it's explained in the Mishnah and the Gemara in the Madlikin and Shabbos. It explains all the different types of oils that you can use and you can't use, and wicks you can use and you can't use. There's some congregations where they say this every Erev Shabbat. They say it. Alder is similarly in the service of God. A person becomes surrendered, that he's able to receive the light of the Ner Mitzvah of Torah or surrender to the Creator in a way that he becomes a shel heves, he becomes a flame that goes up on its own. This has to be, first of all, in relation to yourself, and we're going to have to do this tomorrow. This has to be in a way, whether relation to yourself and also in relation to other people. You have to inspire others also to be aware of what God is and how good God is. Let's say, take for instance, serve and ourselves, how to serve God and yourself. Hagam, even though Shabbat is the service of a Jew, that the Ner Mitzvah of a Torah, or that the mitzvahs are a lamp and the Torah is the light. You have to begin, first of all, with the help of God and your parents and your teachers. Your parents are called two partners that are there to give birth to. There's three partners that give birth to a human being: your mother and father and God. The lessons that are taught to you about serving God from your parents and your teachers and your rabbis should permeate you. That you automatically love God. Kafishu, like it is in Torah or. Like it is in Torah or. Ner mitzvah of Torah or. The Torah becomes a light. After you begin learning Torah, a Jew receives from the Torah and that his teachers and his rabbis taught him Torah, and then afterwards he has to work very hard to understand the Torah and understand it on his own. Right? You go to the yeshiva to learn how to learn Talmud. Until it should be carved out in his mind and in his brain. Until the open in such a way that the Torah shines by him. Until Shenikras, the Torah becomes his Torah. Since the Torah delay, it's his Torah. He learned it. The Torah is in his mind. Until even more, that he is able to find new questions and give proper answers to his questions in the Torah. That's what it means that he's interested, truly interested in the godliness of the Torah. The Torah raises him up. And in a general way, the whole thing of the giving of the Torah, even though the Torah was given by means of God to the Jewish people, and the Torah was with the power of God, the Jewish people are able to learn the Torah. Just like it was when Aaron lit the candles, he had to light them. But after God gave the Torah, it was given in a way that the Torah was no longer in heaven. The Jewish people have the Torah. God gave it over to the rabbis. It was given to the Jewish people, souls and bodies, and the Beit Din, the judicial courts below Sanhedrin, they had the power to decide the law. That's the Talmud. Until that God himself said that the Jewish people, they can convince him that God and the heavenly court come to listen how people in this world give new ideas in the Torah. Sometimes God even smiles and he says, Nitzchuni b'nai nitzchuni. Since the Torah below becomes what's called a flame that goes up on its own. Samely, it is also when you learn the Torah. So when God gave the Torah, he put the Torah in the world, and that when we use our brain to understand the Torah, there's godliness revealed in our brain that gives us the proper ideas that change, so to speak, the how do you say, the concealment of the Torah and make it revealed. When God gave the written Torah, so really nothing in the written Torah is understandable. It says in the Ten Commandments you have to keep Shabbat. It doesn't explain what day or what you have to do or what exactly is Shabbat. What do you have to do on Shabbat? And the rabbis take it from its concealed state and they reveal it. That's the idea. But only the rabbis can do it. And who is a rabbi? It's also not everybody who says I'm a rabbi. It can be a rabbi. Stand up and say you changed the whole Torah because I'm a rabbi. So it says that because the rabbis have to make a big effort. That's why it says you have to learn, but you have to learn one more additional time. Like it was in their days, they used to learn everything 100 times, and the one more time was unnecessary. They didn't have to do, but they did it. Why? In order to serve God. So this remains in his mind and in his memory. And I think that's talking about working at the Torah. Even though you remember it, nevertheless, they had to remember one more time. So by means of this effort that they made the rabbis make in this world, is there's revealed new ideas in the Torah, which are higher even than the angels, and that's exactly what God wanted. So sometimes there's even in the Talmud, when God says one thing, and then the rabbis say a different thing, and God says, I'll listen to what you say, because I gave the Torah to you. And this, God willing, we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. We're up to here 50. That's what the Torah is. The Torah makes a flame. Let's see, here we go.